Welcome, everyone, to our Resilient, Wild, and Unstoppable interview series. And today we get to talk to Lynn. And I met with Lynn, I don't know, a week ago or something. I don't know. The days all run together, and I lose track of which day it is. So I know it's Wednesday, and I know that it was a few days ago that we had this fantastic conversation. And so, Lynn, I am curious how you got into this journey of life transitions and understanding and this mystical, lovely power that you have.
I've actually always had this sort of a mystical bent from childhood. And um, Basically, what I do is I'm an evidential psychic medium. So everybody kind of knows that up front. I'm just saying it out loud. I'm still getting used to the label. Okay. So, um, my, when you know how children have, like imaginary friends.
Hmm.
Mine just happened to be my grandfather who passed away 3 years before I was born.
That's powerful. And at the time, did you know he was your grandfather?
No, I did not find out that he was my grandfather. Nobody really ever talked about him until shortly after my mother passed when I was 8 years old.
Ooh.
So I saw a photo of him around that time, and I was like, this is the man that I've been talking to all this time. Now,
What?
curiously, when I hit that 8 year, when my mother passed in 1970. And I found this out about my grandfather. And what was interesting is after my mother passed, he sort of moved on.
Hmm.
He didn't say goodbye or anything. It was like, okay, I've done what I was there to do to work with you and prepare you for whatever the next step is. So, and so that's pretty much was my whole childhood is, talking to the imaginary friends and then being told by my parents to please stop talking to the imaginary friends, you know, um, be seen and not heard. So I kept that sort of mentality actually most of my life. You know, if I saw something or experienced anything, I would just kind of like just brush it off. Like that wasn't really anything. Just ignore it. You know. Um, but what happened is around the time I turned 60, I lost a lot of family members in a short span of time, around 7 years or so. But there was a lot of family members in that group that I lost, including my father and my stepmother. And shortly after my father and stepmother passed away, about 6 months after my stepmother passed, she passed after my father did. Uh, Both of them actually came and visited me and brought my mother, who passed away in 1970, along with them. I was wide awake. I was not asleep. And we had this long conversation about how I was dealing with things and how I was dealing with the practical things that happen after you lose loved ones,
Hmm.
taking care of their possessions and whatever comes along with that. Everybody has to go through that at some point or another.
Right.
And they actually, all three of them said that they were all friends and they were having a great time on the other side. And they all told me they loved me, gave me messages from my brothers, gave me a big hug. And then that was kind of like when everything opened up for me. So it was a combination of hitting that pivotal 60-year-old mark
Uh-huh.
and going through this grief transition.
Right.
Because my life was really going nowhere and in a hurry. And then this happened. And so I always tell people I fell into this work. I mean, literally, that's what happened. It's not something I would ever have ever chosen for myself. Not in a million years. Not in a million years. No.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a college program for that.
No, there's not. Yeah, I mean, who is the expert, right? Who do you
Right.
get your certification from?
Right.
It's all practical experience, and that's about it.
So, what led you on this to be this evidential psychic medium? What does that
Well,
mean?
it started out after this visit from my parents. What would happen is random people who had crossed over were actually visiting me. They love to choose the time of period where I'm going to bed and falling asleep. You know, you're in that liminal state
Yeah.
in between the two, right? And so I would get these random people come through. It was all the time. Exhausting because I'm trying to sleep and they're all talking like all at once. And I'm like, they're not talking one person at a time. So I don't know which one belongs to you, which one, whatever. Um, so, so anyway, I had to get control of that
Hmm.
because, there's no way that I was ever going to get any sleep. So I took an online intuitive course that was about 3 months long. I think we met maybe once every 2 weeks for the 3 months. I went and I did that just to try to learn how to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that spirit, the people that cross over, they're around us all the time. They're not looking down on us. They're literally here with us. And so I just had to learn to create boundaries.
Hmm.
So I ended up creating this. I think I mentioned it to you once
Yeah.
before about I had to create a visual green room. And
Yeah.
it was a little shoddy thing, it was just green walls and a couple of really frumpy looking chairs. And so, before, but I would go to bed and I would say, look, if you want to talk to me tonight, I'm going to show you in my mind a room. And I want you to go to that room and wait. When I get up in the morning and I've had my coffee and I've read or whatever else I need to do, I will come to the room and I will say, okay, one person, let's talk. And they actually knew what I was saying. I
Yeah.
mean, they actually got it. I mean, immediately it was like, okay, she's going to talk to us. So we're going to just trust her. We're going to go sit in that room. So, now that was, I want to say probably middle of 2020 that happened. And now the room, of course, has been redesigned with multiple chairs, large screen TVs, a bar, a coffee bar, books, magazines. I think there's a Wii game player in there or something, Xbox, I don't know. So they still show up and I send them to the room. And they're like, okay, we're fine. Nice room. Thanks. So, and this goes on all the time. I've gotten so used to it. It's very strange. The evidential psychic medium part that you asked about,
Right.
a lot of people are psychic mediums and they are trustworthy and they are genuine. Um, but for me, I had to use the term evidential because I'm a skeptic. I've
Mm.
gone through this all my life, and I am a hardcore skeptic about anything like that's in the paranormal or in the, I'm going to use the word, please, people don't be offended, woo space. Um, I just don't, we all go through these experiences and we don't know whether they're real or imagined,
Right.
but they still change us.
Right.
They still change us. They still have an impact. And it doesn't, for me, my experience is I'm like, they have to be real.
Hmm.
So the evidential part is if I get information from a spirit to give to a living person, I need to be able to give the living person details to validate that it is their person that I am speaking to.
Got
And
it.
it can get real specific. I did a reading this morning and I picked up on the man's name. That it was a friend of the person I was reading for, and I also picked up the word meatloaf, and I'm like, what does meatloaf have to do with anything? I was like, what is the tie to meatloaf? It turns out that the man, apparently he's ill, and there was some conversation about somebody brought this incredible meatloaf to his family to feed. So anyway, they knew it was a person they knew is what I'm getting at. So I'm being very long-winded. I apologize.
No, that's
Um,
fine.
but so I get these really specific and bizarre details about things. Like an object that's lost. It'll, spirit will show me pinpoint what the object is, and then it'll say, I'm actually in their house with them because they are my family, and my way of interacting is to pick up their toy and put it somewhere where they can't find it
Yeah.
until they find it. Okay. So it's that kind of thing that is the evidential part of it. And that gets past my own skepticism, because there's no way that I know the people I do readings for, in almost, I would say 99% of cases, and I've done over 200 readings, I do not know anything about these people at all. They
Hmm.
will ask for the reading, I'll give the reading to them. I know nothing about them. So that's how this works.
Yeah. I remember you telling me the story of some some gal where, toys had come up missing or, and they'd be on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, it was the Fisher Price Little People. And she
Oh,
has the little she has a little farmyard set. And I said, her person was showing me moving the toys around. And she, first of all, I didn't know what the reference was to. And when I told her about the little toys, she goes, yeah, the kids play with those every single day. She says, we can't find the pig. And I said, it's their love, it's someone in your family that is moving things around. And that's his way of interacting with the family. He can do that. And so he is. So I kind of imagine, like, when they're not there with the toy set, he's probably sitting there with the farm animals and, playing with the whole set. But now, since we've had that reading, the pig keeps going missing. Um, but anyway, so it's things like that. Like, there's no, I'm like, they show me the most bizarre little details, but that's what convinces the person I'm reading for that this is legit.
yeah. 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 And for me, it's fascinating that you have this skepticism and yet because I imagine with being a psychic medium, you have to be chosen by these people to trust you with, you know, being able to come into your mind.
Hmm.
So,
Right. I mean, it's both ways. It's not only the spirits that connect, it's the people. I mean, the people
right.
have to have some level of, I'm going to trust her with this until I don't, which when they get the reading from me, they don't know that I'm thinking in my head, I have to trust me with this until I don't. I am feeling exactly the same thing they're feeling, but from a whole different perspective.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Now you mentioned Oracle deck cards and things like that. Um, was that something that is a product of yours, or is that something you want to talk about?
Well, after I did the intuitive training class, I somebody gifted me a deck of oracle cards, which I'd never used, and so I joined an online oracle class, and I was in that class for, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I was just a natural at working with these cards, even though I wasn't necessarily, you look at a card and you think it means this, but when I look at the card, it would mean something else
Yeah.
based on who was coming through. So I did that for a long time. But what happened was, I think about maybe a year in, I would go, they would put us in these Zoom, what they call breakout rooms. So
Hmm.
we'd have to read for someone else. And usually it was somebody we didn't know. And I'd go into this room and I'd sit there and look at the person, and all of a sudden I'd start talking. Didn't even pick up an oracle card. So I had reached the point where I had completely stopped using the cards. They were always there. I just wasn't pulling them anymore.
Mm,
So,
yes.
which was interesting for me because I didn't, somebody had to mention that to me. We got out of the breakout room and they're like, well, she didn't. she didn't really do an oracle reading for me because I never pulled a card. And I'm like, yeah, she's right. I didn't. I got into the room with the person and I would just start blurting things out. And so I yeah, that's how it works for me now. I still do work with oracle cards if I run into like sometimes off days and I'm not connecting intuitively. I'll pull an oracle card and that'll kind of get things going. And then I have one deck that I've designed. There's only 3 print copies of it so far. But that one is actually based on experiences from my own life. So it's a 78 card deck. And, I spent a year working on that and finally got it finished. It's published digitally, but I don't have it published as a actual print copy yet.
Got it. Yeah. I feel like you have your own, even though they say you didn't do an oracle reading, you did the Lynn reading.
Exactly, because I was still in there and I was, and there, and people that were facilitating the class, they're like, well, can you validate what she said? And they're like, absolutely 100%,
Yeah.
even without a card. Okay. So so I kind of moved on from the Oracle cards and then I started doing these local tours.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a place down here in Solomons, Maryland. Um, there's a man that runs a company called Spooky Solomons, and they're historical ghost tours. I got in touch with him because I had an experience in Solomons. I worked down there for 3 months, and I had an experience in one spot. And I called him and I said, I just really want to go on the tour. But then I said, I had an experience in this store. And then I said, and this is when I was just kind of getting comfortable calling myself what I am now. I said,
Uh-huh.
I'm a psychic medium. And when I told him what the experience was, he got on the phone with me and he's like, okay, we need to meet up. So we went down to Solomon's and we're walking through. It's a beautiful little water town, little tiny stores and like the original buildings. And it's just very like quaint, peaceful place. And we would walk to one spot and he would stop me in front of a location and wait for me to start talking. I had never done this before. I did not know I could do this. And the reason I agreed to go with him to do this was to challenge myself. I wanted to know what my abilities actually were. I
Yeah.
have limitations. I know what some of them are, but I just wanted, I'm testing different things. So we're walking around and he's poker faced the entire time. We stop at a place. I blurt out a bunch of information. He talks into his phone, like he's doing this, talking into his phone like this. And then we move to the next location. The same thing, blurting things out. Meanwhile, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and people are stopping to say hello to him because everybody down there knows him. And, he's talking to them. And so I just stopped talking. And then they finish their conversation and then the blurting continues, okay, until we're done with the location. So we spent about an hour and a half doing this. I went back to my car, and I thought, if I really bombed this like I thought I did, I really did thought, because he wouldn't let on to anything. Get back in my car and I'm thinking the worst that can happen is I'll never talk to this man again and I'll never show my face in Solomon's again. I didn't hear from him and I thought, okay, it was bad. So I guess probably that same evening, I don't know, I guess it was about 6 hours later, he gets on his Facebook page and posts about me. And at first I thought, oh my, I saw my mention of my name and I was like, do I want to read this? I wanted to slam my laptop shut. But I didn't. And he basically said that he could not understand how I could possibly know what I knew about all these separate locations. He said he is an agnostic and a skeptic, and he says now he has to rethink how he views people that claim to be psychics. And so, anyway, we've become great friends out of all this. I still will sometimes go on tours with him, and there's so much layered history down there that I'm still picking up information. And my attitude is, if I pick something up and he has researched it but hasn't found the thing I mentioned, I like shelve it. It's like I write it in a notebook, and then if he runs into it later, we'll discuss it. Usually he's researched pretty much everywhere down
Wow.
there. So when I go down there and I pick something up that hasn't been mentioned, he'll say to me, I am, I was just reading in so and so about what you just said. And I'm like, and this goes on all the time. We've only known each other since the middle of June this past summer, you know.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's
So
pretty
we're,
powerful.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, so this is something I can do. And the thing is when the information comes through, I learned not to filter it. I don't filter it. I just say whatever I'm hearing, sensing, feeling, whatever. Sometimes it's like things just come out of my mouth and I don't even there's no process at all. Um yeah, kind of like this call. Anyway, um but I'm so comfortable with you that I can ramble on like this. So it's just really unusual that it went from nothing prior to 2020 to now this. And
Yeah.
now we're gonna start going to other locations,
Ooh.
not just Solomon's. Um, I'm a little nervous about some of them, to be honest, because of the histories there. I don't know a lot about them, and one thing I have told him from day one is if we go somewhere, I want to go in cold. I don't want any information about where it is. I don't want to know anything.
Yeah.
We just go there, we meet, I do my thing. Sometimes we're just the two of us. Sometimes we're with a tour group.
Yeah. That
And
makes
it just
sense.
happens that way. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, he gets to experience Lynn unfiltered. I get to experience Lynn unfiltered.
Well, there you go. I don't know how Lynn feels about Lynn Unfiltered at this point, but what he told me, and he said this to me several times, and it has had an impact, and that is that he researches things very deeply. He interviews people, he goes through the records, he makes, I mean, a lot of effort. He'll actually go historical societies, Library of Congress, for example, that, all over the place
Mhm.
to find information on the places that he wants to, look into. And what he said, what has happened with my involvement is I've been able to fill in some of the holes in the stories that he hasn't been able to find. And then he'll go back and he'll be researching it again, and then he'll find the thing I said. So it's just really fascinating to me.
Mhm.
And for me, the whole point of what I do is to help the people that are living and the people who have passed, um, not only to like process whatever it is they need to process, but to get their stories straight.
That makes sense.
Because if I'm getting their story wrong, I am disrespecting them, and my conscious will not allow that.
Yeah,
So, if I think I'm onto something, but maybe it might, I don't say it.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
With that, any last words before we close out this interview?
Um, I just want people to realize that when folks like me, psychic mediums, evidential psychic mediums, whatever they're calling themselves at any particular time, they're communicating with people.
Hmm.
It's all just people. And I think, when somebody books a reading, they all of a sudden get nervous because they think they're not going to be communicating with actual people.
Got it.
Um, my role in it is to get the people's stories and to get that information back and forth. And
Hmm.
so, that's kind of where everything is for me
Yeah,
on this.
that makes sense. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought that up because that's powerful and it's good information. So thank you. Appreciate
Thank you. Thanks.